Steve Beuerlein joins us on 365 Sports. He is with us, as you see on the screen. Steve, thank you very much for your time. C.J. Carr is getting the start against Miami, a road game. What initially is it like just to be a quarterback of the lineage and history of Notre Dame?
Well, I'll tell you, he's an old man compared to what I was when I started at Notre Dame. I was a true freshman. What CJ has going for him is he's a redshirt freshman. He's been around the program, and in fact, with what Notre Dame accomplished last year, making it all the way to the national championship, he got to see at the highest level what the demands on the Notre Dame quarterback are like, with what Riley Leonard went through. So I think he's ahead of the game, having seen that and experienced it from a kind of a back seat and not being in a position where there was any expectation on him. I think he's eager for it. I think he's ready for it. I was just back on campus last week because my daughter actually is a sophomore at Notre Dame now, which I am pretty excited about. I get to live vicariously, relive my Notre Dame days through her now. But the buzz around campus is very, very positive. And I think, for those kids that came in as freshmen last year, including CJ Carr, I think the expectation level is really, really high. And they realize, I think, how hard it is to get to that point, to get that opportunity. It doesn't come around very often. So, there's going to be pressure on CJ Carr for sure. He's been a high-profile recruit, high-profile high school athlete. I think he came to Notre Dame because he wanted to be in that position. We'll see how he handles it, but I expect him to come around very quickly. I talked to offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock just last week, and he was very positive in his assessment of where CJ is. He said, but, we've never seen him in a game action at this level. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to learn. We just hope that he doesn't make the big mistakes at the big times. And hopefully he'll continue to learn from those mistakes. He said one thing that I really love about him is he doesn't make the same mistake twice. So that's a really good quality in your quarterback. There's no Jameis Winston in him where he does the same kind of things over and over again that kind of drives you crazy.
Steve, has Marcus Freeman done the job now where, because it looks to me offensively, because they finally decided to go away from transfers and do homegrown with CJ Carr, but they've built the offensive line and the running game up so much, and they've got Jaden Greathouse, they've got other wide receivers on the outside that plugging CJ Carr in, or if Kenny Minchie has to play for any reason, that it should be a little bit slower to them than it would be normally because they are so good up front.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to a group of Notre Dame fans just this past Monday night. We do kind of a preview of the season going into each opening game every year. And I had Reggie Brooks, the former running back for Notre Dame, on via Zoom with me. And we both agreed that what Marcus Freeman has done has been amazing. And it's very similar from a depth perspective on both sides of the ball, every position pretty much, as to what it was like when Lou Holtz was there and building his perennial national championship contender teams. It just seemed like I was there before the national championship run, but what Lou did during the course of his 10 years was just build a recruiting pipeline and an incredible example of how to build your roster with depth, and where you can use those rotations on defense, and where if you lose one offensive lineman, the whole offensive line is not going to have to be reshuffled. You can plug another guy. Maybe he's inexperienced, but he's an incredibly talented, smart, sharp kid that can step in and play and get the job done. I think Notre Dame has that luxury up front. I know we're missing one of our top offensive linemen. In fact, he was going to be the top offensive lineman this year, Jagusa, who broke his arm this past summer in a UTV accident. But we've now still got what I think many people are considering one of the top 5 or 10 offensive lines in the country. So the running game is not going to slow down. We've got Jeremiah Love, and then we've got several guys behind him, really deep running back room where they're going to be able to keep all those guys fresh, make sure that Love is not getting overworked, so he's fresh at the end of the games. There's no doubt in my mind that they're going to come out running the football. But here's the challenge, though. Miami knows this too. Miami knows that C.J. Carr is an unproven redshirt freshman, and they're going to try to see if he can beat him. They're not going to let. They're going to focus on trying to shut down Notre Dame's run game completely, put the pressure on the young quarterback, and see if he can make those plays. So even though Notre Dame wants to come out running the football, they're going to have to come out, I think, throwing a little bit earlier than most people expect, because they're going to have to try to loosen up that defense a little bit.
You know, Notre Dame, it's not like they have been barren. Brian Kelly had a great run. It didn't always end well, and of course he left, but it does seem as if Notre Dame is back. And I hate to say that because that's what people said about UT when they went through a long drought. But it does seem as if Notre Dame is now a major part of it, not just because of the name and history, but they are absolutely a part of the conversation to win a national championship. What does that mean to you?
Well, I'm jealous. I would have loved to have been part of one of those teams. Unfortunately, with Jerry Faust for 3 years and Lou Holtz was first, I didn't get that opportunity. But as a former player, we're very proud of what Marcus Freeman has done. And, you're right. Brian Kelly had an incredible run from a wins and losses perspective as well. The difference is that Brian Kelly alienated a lot of people along the way. And along the way, he never beat a ranked team, a top 10 ranked team during his whole tenure at Notre Dame. And, never won a big bowl game. He won a couple of bowl games, but none of the BCS, national championship type, trying to get into the playoff, the 14 playoff. He never won any of those big games. They always won 10 or 11 games, but the schedule was kind of set up for that. And it still is to a certain extent. But I think this year's schedule, opening with Miami, then following up with at home against Texas A&M, and we've got a tough road game late in September in Arkansas. There's some significantly tough games in there. It's not a gimme 10 wins this year. And I think with the young quarterback, that's going to be the biggest challenge, not having a slip up along the way. But this team that Marcus Freeman has built, I think is built to contend every single year. You're right. Notre Dame is back. They're getting the kind of recruits you need to be competing and the kind of depth you need to have to be competing for a national championship year after year. It's exciting for all of us who love Notre Dame.
Did they win it the year after you left?
No. My first season was the 86 season.
Okay.
And then 87 was Tim Brown's senior year.
Okay.
They went to the Cotton Bowl, and I think lost to, I think it was Texas A&M.
In 87. Yep, they did. Yep.
I think that's what was the year Notre Dame took it with Tony Rice and won the national championship.
So at least you had 2 years of gap, so you didn't have as much FOMO, because that's got to be. I thought was it like Peyton Manning in Tennessee, like he leaves, T. Martin comes in, first dang year, gets it.
Yeah. Well, that's, as you know, it's a little more to it than just plugging in a new quarterback. And but I mean, I had that 1 year between, so it wasn't like as soon as I left, they won the national championship. I will tell you this: Lou Holtz gives my senior class, and he, to this day, he gives our class, the class of '87, but the '86 football season, credit for getting the program turned around and heading in the right direction by just buying into what he was selling and to his style of play. And by the time we finished that season, my senior year, Lou's first year, he felt we could play with anybody in the country. We just hadn't quite learned how to get over the hump as far as winning those close games at the end of the game. And obviously, over the next couple of years, they figured that out.
Steve, you were part of the NFL for quite some time. You were a part of the Carolina Panthers, that 96 team that played for the championship. What a run that was. You ended up beating Dallas and almost like the end of their dynasty in that playoff game. Your thoughts about you in 91 and leading Dallas, it was really kind of like burst through the bubble. Troy was hurt, and you had a hell of a run. And did you see them building towards that what they were about to become?
Well, that documentary that just dropped last week on Netflix. It's the Gambler and his Cowboys. Yeah, it does a great job of documenting all that stuff. The second episode is the one where they get into the 1991 season, where I literally was traded to the Cowboys week 1 of the NFL season to be Troy's backup. Kind of like what Kenny Pickett's going through with the Raiders and a few other quarterbacks that are being moved around right now to kind of fill out rosters. But fortunately for me, we got to the week 12 before I had to play. And, with the Cowboys, we were sitting there at 6-5. The Redskins were 11-0. I can say Redskins. I know I can say, 'cause that's what they were at the time. But they were 11-0 and obviously went on to win the Super Bowl that year. But Troy got hurt in the third quarter. And I came in and I really felt comfortable with Norv Turner's offense. We had a lot of weapons, Michael Irvin and Jay Novacek and Alvin Harper, along with obviously Emmitt Smith, the great Emmitt Smith. But, that team was still searching for an identity and still hadn't had the continued consistent success. I mean, we were 6-5 and basically had to win out in order to make it to the playoffs. And for me, fortunately, to step in and have the team respond the way they did, I think Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson have always given me a lot of credit for that contribution, that run, where we won 5 straight games to get to 11-5, and then we went to Chicago to beat the Bears in the first round of the playoffs. It was the first playoff game the Cowboys had won in 10 years, I believe. So that year really started the dynasty for the Cowboys. They always do a great job of making sure they know that I was a big part of it. There never was any doubt. Even I don't know what your guys' perception was of that episode, if you've seen it or not. But
oh yeah,
I have.
I get a little upset because I'm like, there was so much more to that story. They left out like the Philadelphia game when we were in Philadelphia against Buddy Ryan, and that was Reggie White and Seth Joyner, Jerome Brown, Clyde Simmons, Randall Cunningham, Buddy Ryan, all that stuff, and that was a huge game that really locked up our playoff berth, and a lot of other things that happened along the way. But then my kids told me, they said, "Dad, is this a Steve Beuerlein documentary or is it a Cowboys documentary?" You know what? That's a good point. It's a Cowboys documentary. I'm glad that they got me involved as much as they did. They had a lot of current day interviews, and they had actually some interviews, as you guys probably know if you saw it, of me back when I was 25, 26 years old, same age as my kids. And it was pretty cool to experience it from that perspective. But at the time, yeah, man, it was huge. It got my career back on track because I'd gone through a lot of real difficult situations with Al Davis prior to getting to the Cowboys, and to reestablish myself as a guy that could start in the NFL with that run in 1991 and being able to, wear that ring with pride and say that I had a big part in it it's pretty cool.
Did you know, and did you ever speak much with Troy? Because you know the story there. Eventually, when they made the decision, Jimmy did, to start you in the playoff game, we know he had a Hall of Fame career. How much of a relationship did you have with him?
Troy and I are very close to this day. I think the documentary, didn't play that up enough. He and I never had a problem in terms of understanding each other. I made it clear in all the interviews I did at the time, hey, I was brought here to do what I'm doing. I'm Troy's backup. I think I'm a starting quarterback, but my job is to step in when Troy's not able to go. And I always made it clear that I understood that role. Of course, I wanted to play, but it wasn't. I didn't want it to be at his expense. But obviously, as a backup quarterback, you're looking for an opportunity any way you can. And he knew that I was just doing what was asked. And the frustrating part for him, when he wanted to come back in, when he was healthy, those last few weeks, he went up to Jimmy and said, "Hey, I'm ready. I thought I was going to be the guy when I'm healthy." And Jimmy said, "Well, Troy, you were 6-5. Steve's 4-0. I mean, we're going to stay with him. Sorry." And Jimmy made it clear, his comment in that episode, he said, "I don't care about anybody's feelings. I'm going with what I think is going to give us the best chance to win." Now, if we struggled, in one of those last 2 regular season games or in the playoff game, he would have not hesitated to go to Troy. We all know that. Troy was healthy. But the fact that the team was responding, playing well, we were winning, we were in control of those games, I think that's why Jimmy stuck with me.
And I think I think it lit a fire under Troy for the future seasons to find out what he was missing from that. As a lifelong Cowboy fan, believe me, I haven't heard anything in the documentary that I didn't know about, but I know more about it now. It's really well done. Now you are, correct me if I'm wrong, you're still with Compass. You took over for my former podcast partner, Danny White. I used to do a podcast with Danny on the Cowboys. What do you think about this year's Cowboys and Brian Schottenheimer and all this? It feels like it's a bit of a moving target right now, trying to figure them out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think anybody really confidently can say one way or another, what we expect out of this team. A lot of people credit what happened last year to Dak being hurt for half the season, but I remind him, I'm like, listen, Dak was 3-5 and having his worst season as a starting quarterback when he got hurt last year. So he was as big a part of the problem as anybody else. The defense obviously was horrible the first half of the season last year, and even a little bit into the second half of the season. They played better toward the end of the year, but now having with the Micah Parsons stuff going on right now, not having your best player guaranteed to be ready to go is, unless something's happened that I haven't heard of today, that's an unsettling position. But I'm fully confident that's going to be taken care of, and he'll be out there ready to roll. But it's going to fall squarely on Dak. And, Brian Schottenheimer, obviously unproven as a head coach, his impact will, it'll reveal itself as the season goes along, how he handles himself through the ups and downs of a season, his clock management during the course of a game. We're going to see how he is at that kind of stuff. I do know they want to get back to running the football a little bit more, with the rotation of running backs there. I don't know how that's going to really work out. I personally think Javonte Williams is going to get the first shot at it, and I'm excited to see how he does. But there's going to be 2 or 3 other guys in there mixed in. You got, Jaden Blue and potentially Miles Sanders as well. So we'll see how it all works out. The bottom line is it's going to come down to Dak Prescott. It always does. Your franchise quarterback has got to step up in big games and play well. And unfortunately, that's been the question mark for Dallas throughout Dak's career is, he seems to not play well in the biggest games. And even though he has incredible stats, incredible numbers, wins a lot of games, the big games, he hasn't really stepped up to get him over the hump. And I think that's the big challenge for him and the Cowboys.
Steve, great to see you. Thank you very much for your time, storytelling, and all the what you did, the history of Notre Dame. Thank you so much for your time. Good luck.
You got it, guys. Thanks. Anytime.